Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible story from the ancient world. A story of bravery, of serious palace intrigue, and of a young woman who basically risked it all to save her people. We're talking about the story of Queen Esther, whose courage literally changed the course of history in the mighty Persian Empire. Just think about that for a second. The fate of your entire community, your family, everyone you know and love, and it all rests on your shoulders. That is the exact spot our hero finds herself in. So let's get into how this one young woman rose to meet a challenge that huge. All right, so let's set the scene. We're going back to around 500 BC, right in the heart of the Persian Empire. And when I say empire, I mean it was massive. A kingdom of unbelievable wealth and power that stretched all the way from India over to Ethiopia. And it was all ruled by King Ahasuerus from his palace in the capital city, Susa. So the story kicks off when the king needs a new queen. He basically launches this kingdom-wide beauty pageant, bringing all the most beautiful young women to the palace. Now, among them is a young Jewish orphan named Esther. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai, who gave her one critical piece of advice. Whatever you do not tell anyone you're Jewish. And what happens next is pretty amazing. Out of all the women, it's Esther who completely wins over the king, and just like that, she's crowned the new queen of Persia. And you really have to understand just how big a deal this secret was. This was not a small thing to hide. In the Persian Empire, Jews were often seen as outsiders, captives from Israel, maybe even potential enemies. If she revealed her true identity, it would have been incredibly dangerous, not just for her crown, but for her life. So with Esther now on the throne, a new character steps onto the stage. And let me tell you, this guy is the absolute textbook villain. His name is Haman. The king promotes him, elevates him to the highest position in the entire kingdom. He's now second in command, right under the king himself. Okay, so a royal command goes out, everyone has to bow down to Haman. But here's the thing. Esther's cousin, Mordecai, flat out refuses. He says he will only ever bow to his God, not to any man. Now, for a guy as proud and arrogant as Haman, this is way more than an insult. He is enraged, and that rage sparks a desire for some pretty devastating revenge. So Haman, he goes straight to the king, and he spins this absolutely wicked, calculated lie. And notice, he doesn't just go after Mordecai. He goes after all of his people. He basically paints the entire Jewish population as a rebellious threat to the kingdom and tricks the king into signing a decree for their complete and total annihilation. I mean, the sheer scale of this is just staggering. The order to kill every single Jewish man, woman, and child is sent out across all 127 provinces of the empire. And here's the really scary part. In Persia, once a law was sealed with the king's personal ring, it was final. It could not be revoked, not even by the king himself. As you can imagine, when Mordecai finds out about this genocidal decree, he's completely devastated. He knows there's only one person, maybe, who has a shot at stopping this. He gets a message to Queen Esther begging her to go before the king and plead for the lives of their people. But this wasn't so simple. There was a strict, unbending law in the Persian court that nobody, and I mean nobody, not even the queen, could go into the king's inner court without being personally summoned. And the penalty for breaking that rule, it was absolute. It was death. Esther knew that doing what Mordecai was asking meant she could be executed on the spot. And this is it, right? The moment of truth. On one hand, there is an irreversible death sentence for her entire people. On the other, there's a potential death sentence for herself. And in that moment, Esther makes her choice. She resolves to act. She decides she's going to risk her own life for the chance to save her nation. But here's the thing about Esther. She's not just brave, she's incredibly smart. She doesn't just barge in there, no. She comes up with this very careful, very deliberate plan to approach the king and expose Haman's evil scheme. And her strategy is just brilliant. First, she prepares spiritually. She asks all of her people to fast and pray with her for 3 days. Then, she puts on her finest royal robes and takes that terrifying walk into the king's inner court. And incredibly, the king is actually happy to see her. He holds out his golden scepter, which is the sign that her life is spared. But instead of just blurting everything out, she does something totally unexpected. She invites the king and Haman to a special banquet. And the strategy just keeps unfolding. At that first banquet, the king asks her again what she wants. But she plays it cool. She delays and instead invites him and a very, very happy Haman to another banquet the next day. This move is masterful. It makes the king super curious, and at the same time, it inflates Haman's ego to the size of a mountain. He feels so important, so untouchable. He has absolutely no idea he's walking straight into a trap. Okay, so this is where the story takes a wild turn. On that one night, the night between the two banquets, a little twist of fate, or maybe something more, changes the entire game. The king can't sleep. So to pass the time, he has his servants read the official records of the kingdom to him. And as he's listening, he hears something that jogs his memory, a forgotten story about how Mordecai had uncovered an assassination plot and saved the king's life. And the king realizes, hey, this guy was never rewarded for that. The very next morning, who shows up at the palace but Haman? The king immediately hits him with this question. Haman, what should be done for a man the king really wants to honor? Of course, Haman's ego just goes into overdrive. He thinks, well, obviously he's talking about me. So he lays out this incredibly lavish public ceremony. Can you just picture the look on Haman's face when the king says, "Great idea. Now go do all of that for Mordecai"? I mean, wow. He is forced to personally lead his #1 enemy through the city streets on a horse, shouting about how much the king honors him. It is the ultimate public humiliation. So that night, a very humbled, very confused Haman shows up for Esther's second banquet. The stage is now perfectly set. The king's in a great mood. He's just been reminded of Mordecai's loyalty, and he turns to his queen one more time and asks her to name her request, promising he'll grant it. And this is the moment. Esther drops the secret she's kept for so long. She reveals she's Jewish and pleads, "Save me and my people." When the shocked king demands to know who would dare threaten his queen, she bravely points right at her other guest and says, "The enemy is this wicked Haman." The king is absolutely furious. Haman's treachery is laid bare for everyone to see, and the fallout is immediate and decisive. Esther's incredible courage has completely flipped the script. I mean, the reversal of fortune here is just total. The villain, Haman, is executed. The hero, Mordecai, gets promoted to Haman's old job as second in command of the entire empire. And while that first deadly decree can't be officially erased, the king issues a brand new one that allows the Jewish people to arm and defend themselves. A day that was supposed to be their destruction becomes a day of incredible victory. And this isn't just some dusty old story. Its legacy is very much alive. To remember this amazing deliverance, the Jewish people established the Feast of Purim. It's a joyful holiday that's still celebrated every year, a powerful reminder of how one person's courage saved a whole nation. You know, the story of Esther really shows us that one person's bravery, even when the odds feel impossible, can truly make all the difference. It kind of leaves you with a question to think about for yourself. When the time comes, what courage can you show for others?